Tencent's stance is that in order to comply with China's legal and regulatory requirements, it can process and handle private information without requiring user consent in certain situations. Those situations being if the Chinese government wants us to. The CCP reportedly have a direct line to the desks of Tencent product managers and are able to order deletions whenever they want, or monitor specific accounts and specific phrases in both public and private posts. One particularly intimidating policy change in 2017 was that group admins on WeChat were made personally liable for whatever was said on group chats they run. Many simply deleted their groups as a result. Tencent also feeds data to China's social credit scoring system, which can affect what citizens can do. All that information they have, like payment history, real-time location, who you're associated with, can allow the government to create an incredibly detailed picture of who you are, what you buy, and how you behave, thus allowing the government to give you a score of how trustworthy you are as a citizen.
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now, the Chinese are also ranked. It's aggregating data gathered by banks, private companies, and the state to rate if someone's a good or bad citizen. A good score brings benefits, but people with low scores lose rights. The cinema names and shames people considered untrustworthy, plastering their details, even their addresses, across big screens. Among them is this journalist Liu Hu. He got a little too close to uncovering corruption among high-profile party members. He was blacklisted. He only realized when he tried to buy a train ticket and was told he was banned from traveling.
But as Tencent grew larger, it seems the CCP became more demanding. Tencent has to employ hundreds, possibly thousands of their own censors, whose job it is to block anti-government posts. Tencent then began deleting lots more posts and suspending accounts that stepped out of line. There are multiple examples of creators, such as blogger Laura Lian, who had hundreds of thousands of fans reading her work, but after making one comment the CCP didn't like, her account was deleted without warning and her income gone. And thus, whilst Chinese citizens clearly enjoy the convenience of WeChat, which admittedly is such a useful app, in the back of people's minds, they're aware that their every move and comment is documented, something which the CCP openly remind people of. Whatever Tencent can see, the Chinese government can see. And so it's kinda crazy that over 1 billion people have opted to sacrifice all aspects of their privacy and free speech for convenience. There's apparently a joke in China that if you order too much food via WeChat, you might get the police tracking you thinking you're harboring fugitives. Now, to be fair here, I really do not believe Tencent set out to create a government surveillance tool. This wasn't some evil plan. Tencent was started by some entrepreneurs wanting to build a business like anyone else, but they managed to create something so popular that the only way the CCP would allow it was if they had some control too. So Tencent didn't really have any choice but to fall in line. Pony is a pragmatic businessman and knows he has to keep the government on side. Hence, when a reporter asked him about censorship at a tech conference, Pony seemed to side with the government by saying, "Lots of people think that they can speak out and that they can be irresponsible. I think that's wrong." Now, to be fair, we have no idea how Pony really feels, but he knows what would happen if he spoke out against the CCP in any way. And the reality is that China's laws require all companies to hand over data if requested. In fact, it's reported that many companies in China have a special office at their headquarters called the Internet Security Police Room, where Chinese public security forces can intervene in company operations or track certain users. Which brings us back to the question, why isn't WeChat as popular outside of China? It's not like Tencent didn't try at all. They do have an English version of their app and even ran big marketing campaigns like this advert with Messi to try and promote WeChat to the world.
WeChat, the new way to connect. Download it now for free. Free voice and text messages. We love, we share, WeChat.
However, one of the most fundamental reasons for its limited international appeal is clearly because of this surveillance and censorship. Research from Citizen Lab found that the Chinese government does monitor and censor confidential information sent via Tencent's apps, even from users outside of China. For example, I saw a story where one person in a private group chat had sent some news about pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong and was confused when nobody else in the group responded. She only later found out nobody else could even see her messages, as her private messages had been censored without her knowing it. Any taboo issues like mentions of Tiananmen Square or Tibet are censored on Tencent apps regardless of if you're in China or not. So basically, just because you were using a Tencent app outside of China doesn't mean that Tencent wouldn't still have to supply any of your data to the CCP if they requested it. Remember, Tencent have to stay on China's good side. And thus, many people understandably have some fear about one company, especially a company with ties to the CCP, having all of their info on every aspect of their life. Thus, whilst surveillance and censorship is what allowed Tencent to become dominant in China, as it meant the CCP let them grow so big, outside of China, that has scared users off.